What's up, Mike?
What's going on, Paul?
How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm just trying to get ready for the end of the year here, and
You're trying to record this podcast with your internet out.
And I'm internet's out. I'm on my phone. Like, you guys didn't even know I was in the room. You were talking bad about me. But you know what? We're just ready to close out of 25 and get to 26.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling that. Well, as maybe that's the theme, as we wrap up 25, we are also wrapping up the Machine Shop MBA series that we did in collaboration with CLA and Modern Machine Shop and their Top Shops survey and conference. And we have Brent Donaldson with us, who started out this series, and now we're going to wrap it up with him today. How's it going, Brent?
Hey, fellas. It's going well.
Brent, good to see you.
For having me on. Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yeah, it was fun to gather in North Carolina at the NASCAR Hall of Fame and hear all the sessions and the talks and just the energy at that place. It's just good.
Yeah. So. And I just want to say off the top, like, what you guys are doing with this series is, from my perspective, appreciated and really important. And I think we're going to get into a couple of the parallels that I see between the Top Shops program and the MBA series. So congratulations. Great job.
Well, appreciate it.
Thanks for
the collaboration. You guys are doing really important work over there, and we want to help amplify that and have more earballs, as I call them. Listening and learning and contributing to it in the future. So, and that's really why we did this series in the first place. This industry is full of incredibly passionate, gritty people that care so much about their business and the industry. But many of them are sort of in their own little bubbles, right? They don't get out to see other shops as much, and they're doing their best. And if we can share insights from your survey and your past winners and other people we know that can kind of give them a more broad understanding of how to run a high-performing shop, that's what we want to do. So that's sort of why we did this series.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Paul, next year's 2026. Guess what happens?
That means it's an even year, which means IMTS is happening.
I'm so excited. And I assume Pro Shop will be there exhibiting again, as always.
Yeah, it'll be our 5th time, I think.
Wow.
Would have been 6th if COVID hadn't happened. But yeah, even after being there that many years, there's a lot to understand about that show. It is a massive event, massive execution to exhibit.
Well, and a big investment, right? It's, your time, your money.
It is a big investment. Yeah, it's one of our biggest marketing investments for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to, in January, you and Nick and I are going to be at the IMTS Exhibitor Workshop, where exhibitors can come and learn how to get their most out of IMTS.
Yeah, the workshop is fantastic. There's a bunch of different benefits from it. One, you can connect with all the vendors for your furniture, for your logistics, getting all your stuff in and out of the show, electrical, everything. But this year, they're also doing an executive session or series. So really focused on getting the most out of the conference. How are you going to go in with a marketing plan, really execute it, and get your maximum ROI if you're exhibiting at the show?
Well, it's a major commitment to go to the show. I mean, I go as an attendee, but seeing all the work that goes into it, if I was exhibiting, I would definitely want to maximize my experience there and get the most out of it. And the workshop, I know, is going to be interactive, where they really work through things. Like you said, you can place the orders, all that type of stuff. And, that's going to bring a bunch of value to exhibitors.
Yeah, absolutely. The difference between coming with a plan and executing on that, it's a big difference, as opposed to just showing up, throwing up your booth and hoping for the best. So yeah, it's definitely advisable. So exhibitors that want to make more of it, whether they're first time exhibitor or even if they've done it many times, but they really want to maximize their ROI this time, they should definitely show up at this thing. And what are the dates again?
Yeah, so it's January 27th through 29th at the McCormick Place. So you kind of get familiar with where your booth's going to be and all that type of stuff. To find out more, people should just go to amtonline.org/events and get signed up, and we'll see you there in January.
Sounds good, Mike. All right. So as we were planning this and trying to figure out exactly how we want to frame it all up and wrap it up, you shared something that I thought was particularly concise and just really insightful. You said that through the survey and through everyone you talk to, what you're seeing is a shift from a shop being a collection of machines and people to seeing it as a system that can be intentionally designed, measured, and improved. And I couldn't agree more with that. But why don't you elaborate on that, and we'll sort of get into this here.
Yeah. So, I've listened to, I would say, most of the episodes in this series. Sorry, I haven't listened to everyone end to end, but I feel like I've been immersed in a lot of the same problems and issues that you guys have been talking about, and maybe from a slightly different angle. I deal directly with the top shops benchmarking data. I conduct dozens of shop visits every year and have done hundreds, if not thousands, over the course of my time here with Modern Machine Shop. Long conversations with shop owners, a lot of the same things that you guys are doing. And of course, you come at this with a perspective of being shop owners and leaders yourselves. And like you just stated there, and as I wrote in that really long rambling email, I do see a shift and a parallel here. When I talk to new shop owners, young shop owners and leaders, there is this tendency for those leaders to feel like what they need, at least as that initial bump in success, is to grind. Like there's a lot of rise and grinders in this industry, as you guys know. So to work extremely hard to make that first investment in a nice machine tool, and then land one big customer or one steady customer. And all of that is important. But what I see with shops that have kind of matured beyond that is a little bit more maturity in their thinking. So, and I think this kind of parallels with the arc of the series that you guys have put together. It's less of that attitude about, I've got to just find the right customer, to being very deliberate about how you think about or how disciplined you are in more of the details, looking at your cash flow, looking at your quoting accuracy, looking at your end-to-end workflow, your habits as a leader, and the processes that you put in place, and making them predictable and repeatable. So it's a transformation really from how do I survive to how do I build something that lasts. And that mindset represents a big change. And sometimes that only comes with years of experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so incredibly insightful from the whole thing. One of the things we've talked a lot about this year as we've been fine tuning our systems and processes at Hill, and where we even kind of reverse engineered our value chain to say, okay, what are we delivering? What's success? Well, success is a paid invoice, right? That's so we started at the back end and said, okay, what's it take to get a paid invoice? We got to deliver parts, but essentially, almost more importantly than delivering parts, because we can deliver the parts and not get paid if we don't deliver the right paperwork with them, right? So there's that whole piece, and then you back up that chain from reverse angle of how do I make that ultimate step successful, and it's kind of like I think Elon Musk has talked about it, and I know other people have talked about Tesla, for example. They're not a car company; they're a tech company, right? And I see that shift in this industry, kind of what you're talking about, right? It's not necessarily tech; it's systems and processes though that standardize precision and repeatability.
Yeah. Well, this I sound like a broken record, I know, but this whole theme parallels the exact thing I talked about in the Top Shop's 2017 conference when I spoke about how to make a machine shop franchise prototype. Right? It's this concept that I originally learned in the book, The E-Myth, that someone that is a great machinist thinks they'll be great at running a business that does machining, and that couldn't be further from the truth. They think, oh, I know how to make parts. I can start my own company. I buy some material, make the parts, and send an invoice. Like, how hard can that be?
Right.
But there's so many things that require really robust systems to make sure that you can generate the real value out of that chip cutting work in a way that doesn't just cause you a ton of stress and just that rise and grind is the only way you can get through every day. So yeah, I appreciate, Brent, your insight on seeing that across the survey and across the all the companies that you have visited over your career here at Modern Machine Shop, because I think that is the lesson we're trying to impart to many listeners is, that rise and grind is essential, pretty much certainly at the beginning, and hopefully it can taper down a little bit as you build robust systems, hire people to run the systems, build the systems, and build something that is enduring and long lasting and can last generations.
Yep. Yeah. And that's what I love about the Top Shops program and about benchmarking in general. It kind of accelerates that mind shift, right? So I'm not a shop owner, but I've, again, spoken to hundreds, and I get a sense that some shop owners feel like they're busy or they're whatever metrics they want to use in their mind. If they're not benchmarking, they feel like they're busy, and so that maybe that's success, or at least a roadmap for success, and it quite possibly it is. But what's going to tell you definitively is data, and so Top Shop's benchmarking data doesn't tell you what to do. It shows you where your assumptions stop matching reality. And getting a clear, objective, data-driven view of that. Again, I've talked to many shop owners where that was eye-opening for them, and it allowed them to focus on systems and processes that had sort of escaped their attention and provided an opportunity to grow in a way that they hadn't considered before.
I appreciate all that, Brent. That is definitely a way that shops should be. I believe that shops should be thinking about how to improve their business and benchmark and see where the opportunities are. And you identified in this email you sent to us five insights that could reveal opportunities. And so we're gonna turn the tables. You're gonna ask us questions. Obviously, Mike is a current shop owner. I'm a former shop owner, but let's play this game and go ahead and ask these questions of us.
All right. I appreciate you playing along for this and letting me get back into my natural habitat of asking questions instead of responding to them. So yeah, you ready to jump into question one? These are actual questions from the Top Shop survey.
You bet.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Question one is about RFQ response time. So how quickly do you typically respond to an RFQ?
Yeah, so I would say not fast enough. A lot of it depends on the complexity of the RFQ, of course, right? I mean, there's some we can respond to within hours, and there's some that take us. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes we're working on ones for a week or so or more. A lot of it depends on how much outside processing, things like that there is. There's unique materials. It is actually kind of my number one priority going into the first quarter of 2026 is to improve that process. We have an internal target of 24 hours, and I think that's too long in today's age. I feel like for the most part, I need an infrastructure that's allowing me to do that. I don't know if I'm ready to do some of the instantaneous tools, maybe on some super simple parts, but I do feel like we should be responding same day. And sometimes we do, but not every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. When it comes to the response time, it matters immensely what you're actually looking at, right? And who the customer is and what their expectations are, right? When you have those good, solid repeat customers that you've had for years and years, and they have, a big program, they're not in a rush to place it. But
right.
Maybe there's a development program that they need parts as fast as possible, and they do want that quote in a couple hours. So, prioritizing and really understanding the desire of what that customer has is crucial. I've always in my whole career tried to sort of pride myself and my businesses on responsiveness. So back in the Pro CNC days, we tried very hard to turn things around as quickly as possible, and got to the point where if we're quoting something that was not super exotic to us, fairly standard kind of parts we made, I might have less than 5 minutes time investment in that whole estimate and quote and get it back to them within an hour.
Sure.
So, and that is for some types of customers, that is the deciding factor on who they're going to go with, right?
Oh, we know we've missed jobs. Yeah.
Yep.
Because we didn't respond fast enough.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. Don't have to be the lowest, but if you get there fast with a reasonable price and a good solid, conviction that you can hit their lead time, 100%. I bet they're going to probably place an order with you.
Right.
Yeah, I think you guys both nailed an important aspect of this. And so if you're talking about repeat work or well-defined work, same day is, I would say, much more doable. So the top 20% of respondents to the Top Shops benchmarking survey respond within 24 hours. It's just one of the competitive advantages that it's not necessarily just a software question, but that's the differentiator, 24 hours.
Yeah.
All right, question 2, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Question 2. Roughly how much revenue do you generate per employee?
So this was when I first took the survey in 2018. It was one of the clear differentiators that I saw between me and the top shops, and certainly focused on that. And to me, it's a driver of efficiency, right? So we're generally targeting 300,000 per FTE. We'll be a little under that this year, not drastically, but a little bit under. But I have found it to be a really clear indicator of efficiency. That's when, even with the most recent shop I bought, when I compare it to my operations I've had going on for several years versus that one that's just new under my belt, right? And I have them tell me, oh, so-and-so left, we need another person. And I challenge them back on, well, do we? Because, right now we're getting maybe 240 per FTE. And I know we can get to 3. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean we can get there overnight, but we need to have the processes and systems in place that allow us to, right? So where can we have 2 people running 3 machines? Where can we utilize automation and so forth? That tells me that I'm driving that number up and I'm operating at top efficiency.
Manufacturing isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's built on materials, machines, and the methods behind them. In What's Your Method? We talk with the leaders at Methods Machine Tools about how they're helping manufacturers in aerospace, mold making, and machining turn complexity into opportunity.
Hey, so Matt, welcome to What's Your Method on making chips.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
So a lot of people don't know this, but I started the By the Numbers podcast because I am such a strong financial mind. I ended up letting Mike run with it just to kind of help him get there and mentor him a little bit. But he's taken it really far. So we're proud of you, Mike. Good job.
Well, I truly appreciate the opportunity, Nick.
Yeah, don't let your genius overshadow this segment here, Nick. So.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have someone who actually knows what they're talking about when it comes to finance, Mr. Matt Sheehan on. Matt, can you give us a little bit of a background on your role with Methods?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been with Methods just over 8 years now. I actually came from the banking sector, financial services world, investment world early in my career. Spent 10 years at a large manufacturing lender covering all of the Northeast, working with shops each and every day and working with all of the different distributors and vendors throughout the Northeast region, and really built a good relationship with Methods, and they had wanted to bring me on board to provide that service, that financial service advice and guidance to our customers. So 8 years later, here I am, and we started a group that was going, but needed a little bit of bump to, kind of get to where we are today. So now we work collaboratively hand in hand with our sales guys and our customers.
It's also a little bit of vertical integration on Methods' part, and super awesome to bring a key partnership in-house.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
So Mike, I mean, you've been buying machines like crazy.
Sorry.
I'm not the one who pulls the trigger on buying machines. I'm usually the guy trying to sell it. But,
Sure.
Talk about your experience, financial tools that you need sometimes to get you over the hump.
Well, I mean, I think all of us as shops need, we need a good trusted advisor we can work with. And, so often, I mean, at least a lot of the folks I'm working with, I either need to go to my bank or an independent financing. So I think it's really great that you guys pulled that in house. What does that process look like for somebody that's looking at some equipment from Methods? How do you guys kind of go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So really what we've done, Mike, is we've gone out and taken the hard part of financing out of the customer's hands. We have deep relationships with all the major direct lenders in the marketplace. So coming from that world, it was sort of an easy transition for me to know who to go work with. They were my competitors, right? So now I'm on the other side of the fence working directly with them. And we negotiated terms and structures that I know work for our customers. So what we do is when a customer is interested in financing and they come to us, and we hear this a lot, they'll say, well, I'm not sure I can afford the machine. I'm not sure how to pay for it. And our sales guys say, great, we have an in-house finance team that are former bank guys that can help guide you through that process without maybe talking to your bank or talking to a banker first, maybe saying something you might not want to say. So we're providing those customers with that guidance of sort of the banking landscape, right? We collect a credit app from them. We do an initial in-house pre-screen. One of the guys that works for me has a very solid credit background. That's very helpful. So between the two of us, with my background in sales and being out in front of customers and in shops and really kind of doing that guidance when I was on the bank side, now we have the credit guy in-house. So the two of us together are really sizing up a transaction and figuring out, is this a customer that we could take to a traditional lender that will give them really good interest rates? Or is it someone that maybe needs a little bit of help? Or we could kind of guide them and go to maybe more of a non-traditional lender if they're not in a good position, right? So we're providing that guidance to those customers. But for the easy ones, the ones that have good credit, we're going out there on their behalf and we're getting them the best deal we can get them, closing that transaction, coming back to them, providing them documents. And for them, they're just sitting back saying, the finance team's got it, and they get their financing docs, and we keep things moving forward for them. The cool part about it too is our back offices work together. So the back offices at the lenders are also working collaboratively with our back office and our accounting team. So whereas if the customer went and got financing on their own, they're part of that process the whole time, right? They're getting a call from their banker saying, hey, I need an invoice. It needs to be revised this way. That doesn't happen with our process. We've taken all that complexity out of it.
Wow.
That's just such a great turnkey service that takes so much of the headache out of the shop owner.
Yeah, we get so much positive feedback on it. And really what it's done is it's solidified those customer relationships for Methods, right? They're coming back to us because the process of buying a machine the last time, from service to install to the buying process, was easy. And now the financing process was easy for them, and they want to do that again, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I think, the machine tool sales guys focusing on the technology and the opportunity to make parts, and that's complex enough as it is, and I think what you guys grasp
Absolutely.
here is like the real entire problem that the customer has, and you're solving all of it, not just the making chips part of it. So I think that's really, really special. Would you say it's pretty unique what you're offering, and your approach to it, bringing up like the banking folks in house?
I know some of the competition has something similar, but I think the uniqueness that we have is you have myself, who has 30 plus years of financial services background under his belt, right? 10 of that specifically at a large lender who I was feet on the street in shops every single day, going to see customers, getting tours, asking about what products they make, really digging in. So I understand the shop mentality. I understand, our customers probably more than most bankers do. I'll say that. So it's a huge advantage for us. So, and I still get brought in from time to time to go see large customers where they may be working on a pretty sizable project and the sales guy wants to bring me into the transaction. I'll go see the customer with them and we'll have conversations about what makes sense and what they potentially could afford and what I could help them with or not. And it makes that buying process a little bit unique for the customer.
I love the front end advisory side of it you have, where help somebody decide can they afford one and then how to afford it, because I think we've all seen shops. I mean, I think everybody can think of shops that have maybe been overfinanced, and then have got themselves in trouble. So it's nice to have someone, with your experience to be able to help a owner really understand what they're getting into. Maybe if it doesn't fit their model, great, right out of the gate, and
Right.
then have a growth plan from there.
Yeah, and I've seen those shops as well, Mike, that have been overfinanced, where they're really good at what they do and making parts and the machining aspect of it, but maybe business wise they're not the best.
Yeah, sure.
So we can only advise them so much, right? But
Sure.
The good part is that when customers are considering different pieces of equipment, we're having those conversations and giving them payment examples and running different scenarios for them, seeing if they can afford it, right? And it actually helps them a little bit, where they're not having to go back and forth with their person or their bank to see if that makes sense. It's instant. Yeah. It's right there.
Yeah, there is just so much complexity already to trying to run a manufacturing company, a machine shop, and especially in our industry, which is really cutthroat, really competitive. So for you guys to understand that and to take a lot of that load off of the shoulders of the manufacturing leader is really awesome and really impressive. So thank you for sharing your method for solving the whole problem, not just the technical part of the problem. And we really appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Matt. I really appreciate it.
We'll catch you next time.
Manufacturers, what is your biggest headache? Is it measuring improving profitability, gaining efficiencies with AI and automation, maybe tightening up your cybersecurity, maybe getting your business ready to sell? At CLA, their goal is to know you and help you with challenges like these and more. Every day, CLA helps manufacturers tap into millions in revenue and cost savings, like one manufacturer that boosted capacity and revenues by 15 to 20%. Visit CLAconnect.com to hear real success stories and learn how you can grow your top and bottom line.
Mike, I'm curious. So there's a reason, I think, why this question is more revealing than revenue per machine. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, again, I think it goes back to efficiency, right? So, as an example, COVID was really rough on us, and we were targeting that number, and we were lagging on that number going into 2020. But we worked really hard on ourselves in 2020, and we came out of 21 and did nearly double the revenue of 19 with the same amount of people as 19. But in 2020, we worked on better work holding. We worked on automation. We worked on, faster setups. We worked on those types of things, which allows me to generate more revenue with the same amount of people, right? So to me, that's why it's such a clear indicator, is that you're just running super efficient. If you're able to drive the higher you can drive that number up, generally, I would suspect if you're real high above 300, you have a lot of automation in your shop too, right? You have robots running half the machines or something like that. But I think somewhere probably anywhere from a 275 to a 350 number, you're just running efficient. You've got good setups. You've got good work instructions. You've got, open door time is at a minimum, those types of things. Good work holding, quick change, work holding, stuff like that.
Yep.
I think that one number encompasses so much of what we're all trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a crucial number. I've always been fascinated by it from a few different perspectives. One, it is really dependent as well on how much value is being added by the shop versus what they're starting with in raw materials, right? I know shops that start their material cost is 10%. And I know shops where the material cost is 60%. And those are just apples and oranges. But putting all that aside, I think one of the main differentiators in that number is what you were talking about, Brent, is the systems-based thinking. Because the shops that are not thinking that way, they are constantly putting out fires, and that is keeping their spindles from turning more often. And the companies that do have really solid systems and hopefully paperless and everything is really well orchestrated end to end, they can cut their setup times in half by having, just not only the hardware, but the systems to make sure that when a job is finished, they can very quickly get that next job set up. Everything has showed up on time. All the documents are at the right revision. They got the G code. They got the tools preset. And it takes systems to make sure that happens time and time again, day in and day out. But those shops can see considerably higher throughput and therefore revenue. And I'd also think it comes to their marketing niche. If you are really well marketed in a niche, you can just generate more profit per hour, quote a higher hourly rate across those machines. And so I've seen shops, barely hitting 100,000 per employee, and shops well over 500,000 per employee. And it comes down to all these variables, and I'm just dialing them in.
It's interesting that you bring up marketing. I hadn't considered that relationship between those two topics, but yeah, I could see how. What I like about this question is it sort of reframes productivity a little bit. It's it takes it outside of spindle utilization and horsepower and again just purely away from the technology that you have, and it reframes it to more human terms. So, Mike, your response was dead on. The number for the top 20% of respondents is 300 to 350,000 per employee or higher, and that translates to a pretty remarkable stat, which is top shops, the top 20% generate 50% to 100% more revenue per employee than the average respondent, which is wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a cool stat.
Ready for question 3?
You bet.
Ready.
Okay. Question 3. What percentage of sales do you reinvest annually in equipment, software, and training?
I'm going to start with this one, Mike.
Well, I'm sitting here my eyes are rolled back in my head trying to do math. I know from my own responses to the Top Shop survey, that is a more volatile one for me because my needs vary from year to year so much. So I don't necessarily set out a percent budget, that I'm gonna do $500,000 a year in capital investment or this much in training or anything like that. So I know mine has been volatile over the years. I know sometimes I'm on target, sometimes I'm needs improvement. That's probably more nature of how I manage a business, more so than right or wrong. I mean, so give me the 3 buckets again. So equipment, training, and what else?
Software.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, between those 3 buckets, I don't know what the number is, but I would say in any given year, 2 of them are high and one's low. There's because you've got to be doing all 3 of those, right? So, but I can't always necessarily do all 3 at the level that I'd like. So I don't know. I don't remember where my numbers are on that one. But I certainly agree they're critically important.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm asking you for complex percentages live on a podcast. So,
right.
So I get
it. Well, my numbers are 10 plus years old, 15 years old, but thematically, what I certainly see across, the shops that I work with or the guests that I have on my show, the higher performing shops are absolutely investing in all of those. Now, the training aspect doesn't have to be super expensive out of pocket. There's tons of free education or very low cost, education, but the one thing they are doing is they're organizing their own team to cross-train each other, to upskill the newer, less experienced employees with the real senior folks that, have been around for years, and trying to make sure that they don't have single points of failure, out in the shop. So, back in my shop days, we leaned heavily on training and cross-training, and obviously even built software to help, see where everyone in the shop is trained to and where our gaps were. Because we also had some older employees that really, we wanted to help them, train the younger, up-and-comers. And then on the machines and software side, obviously I'm a big proponent of the importance of doing that. And I've seen, plenty of shops out there that, buy a couple of vertical mills or a lathe and, try to run themselves on spreadsheets. And I've seen shops that have bought automated 5-axis pallet machines as some of their first equipment and buy an ERP before they even bought their first machine. Yeah. And they are very much dead focused on building a super robust platform and system even before they generate revenue. And I don't even think necessarily, it probably does take a little bit more, money and funding to start that way versus, buying a used vertical mill. But I do see those shops ultimately outperforming the others in terms of just their growth rate and, what they can build as a business.
Yeah. And to Mike's point, this question is really complicated and it's really subject to fluctuations around the general economy, around your own business. It's probably not going to be the same number for a shop every year unless you're Mike Bauer at Marathon Precision, who just will drop a dime on moment's notice if you see something cool. But there is a guidepost number according to the data, and that number is about 5% of annual sales or more reinvested consistently. And so again, the name of the game, as it is with all of this and this entire conversation, I think is deliberate decisions and consistency. Not necessarily during just the good years. It can make a difference, and I've seen it happen. Growth tends to follow steady reinvestment and over a strategy of like one-time big investments. So,
well, it certainly speaks to the importance of something we talk about a lot, which is just reinvesting in yourself, right? So, especially when I talk on by the numbers and stuff a lot about, valuing your business and what drives value and what doesn't. People have heard me talk about one of my investment strategies is to go buy old tired shops, right? And their number is 0, right? They haven't reinvested any of that stuff for 5 or 6 years because they're already on their way out. And that's not only is that not driving the company forward, but it's driving their value down because there's that multiplier is dropping as all that equipment, that training, those processes, all those things are older, right? So, yeah, I think it speaks to a lot of good stuff. Beyond just staying involved. If you're not reinvesting in yourself, you're really not driving much value in your company either.
100%.
All right. Ready for question 4?
You bet.
Okay. This is not really a number question. This is more, the answers here might be none, very little, some, most, or all, something like that. So the question is, how much of your scheduling and job tracking is standardized versus living in people's heads? So again, how much of your scheduling and job tracking is standardized versus living in people's heads? This gets to tribal knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily for us, we have Pro Shop and we have a schedule. However, I will add that I just completed an acquisition this year that most of the listeners have heard me talk about. And we're still kind of going somewhere between head and system. Right? We're bouncing back and forth still, but we're getting closer and closer to it. It's just in a system and it's just scheduled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, I have a bias in this question, and I think, but I genuinely think have a systemized approach to shop management, both scheduling and set up information and everything else is such a differentiator, and I don't fault shops that aren't leaning into that because I feel like there's a little bit of the the frog in boiling water kind of scenario where when you start small, you can totally do your schedule in your head. You got 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 machines, and it's pretty easy to know that this job is going on that machine tomorrow and this one is going to finish up, the day after that. But as you grow and as you grow your revenue, and Mike and you and I have talked about the $2 million threshold where a lot of shops just don't get past that. It, slowly and sort of without really being aware of it, you start getting to the point where you cannot manage, which jobs are coming and going on eight machines or 10 machines or 20 machines. But you're still kind of clinging to the whiteboard or just doing incremental improvements in the way you do it manually. But yeah, it is such a game changer. It really does move a shop from that sort of very reactive firefighting mode to very proactive, planned out execution. And it just makes such a difference both in the quality of life in a shop, how much stress there is, and their financial performance as well.
Yeah, I will tack on to that last part you just said. So, I've long believed all of the stress that we create in our daily operations is self-induced, right? And because we're not using proper systems and planning and so forth. And I literally, right before we got on this call, was on a call talking about scheduling where, we've got 2 jobs running on the floor right now in this recent acquisition that are due in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, we've got 2 jobs ready to run that are due Monday. Well, now we're stressed about those jobs due Monday, right? Because we've got jobs running that are not due for a couple of weeks. So that systemized approach, it will just relieve all that pressure, all that stress, and just allow us to sip coffee all day.
Well, yeah. I do think there's tying back into some of the early question, and this leads to revenue per employee and everything. I have absolutely seen shops that are almost the exact same size, same number of employees, but in some, like the owner can literally come in a few days a week and just sort of check in with people and just kind of enjoy, watching what's happening. And others just are pushing, 12 to 16-hour days, just, literally run around like a firefighter all day long. And it doesn't have to be that way, right? There's nothing that fundamentally different about the machines they have or the people they have. It's just how they've thought about the systems and the process and the people. And you have to be good at delegation. You have to have trust in people and take that bigger view. But yeah, it comes down to things like, how do you do your scheduling? How do you do your job tracking? And there's the hard way and there's, or not, there's a harder way and an easier way. So.
Yeah. I think the bottom line from everything that I'm hearing from you guys and from what I see with the data and the lessons gleaned from this question, it really comes down to process maturity and a systems driven approach rather than, again, the one person who knows the schedule and you're reliant on that person. All right. Ready for the last question?
You
ready?
Okay. Another open-ended question here, and it is, do you have a documented plan for leadership or ownership transition?
I don't yet.
Yeah, and I see in your little subnote, this is one of the most under-addressed risks that you see.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love this question.
Especially right now.
This gets to the heart of my entire being. So in my case, I have a 10 to 15 year window for a transition. So do I have a documented plan yet? No, but I certainly have a strategy. And what I preach to anybody in business is when you're 5 years out, you better have that documented plan. To me, that's your time to, write this up, get it pretty solid.
Yeah. This is a really hard question because it gets at more than just business acumen. It gets kind of at like real human issues and mortality. And this is a deep one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And for some businesses, it's less hard than others. When you have a next generation that is keenly interested in the business and it's just clear that they're going to take it over one day, then that's a very different story than people that don't have, children or someone that want to take over the business or buy it. And they're just, doing their best coming in year after year, just trying to grow their business and make it, make a lifestyle or support their families or community or whatever. And I know, having seen it firsthand, there are shops that are in that sort of that position where they don't have someone that's a natural transition. And they just assume that someday they'll just close the doors and sell off the machines and just kind of go into the sunset, and they've hopefully made enough in their career and saved that they can enjoy a retirement. And I've seen those same people, once they take a different approach and think that, wow, I'm actually building something that's enduring and valuable, and someone else might actually want to pay me a decent amount of money for it when I'm done, make that mindset shift and be really kind of inspired by that.
Yeah. So again, very difficult question. It's like I have friends who are my age who haven't made a will yet.
Yeah.
This is a hard thing to ponder. It's not fun to think about. But anyway, when you look at the data, the top shops data pretty clearly shows the top shops, again, the top 20% are far more likely to have thought this through formally and documented it in some way. Now, it kind of gets back to, you can have a really high performing shop that there's kind of a fragility there if it depends on one person forever, right? So yeah, that's a tough one. But altogether, I think these 5 questions, they kind of cut across finance, operations, people, strategy. They expose gaps, and it's part of why the Top Shops survey is so important. And if I can just take this moment really quickly to just mention that the 2026 Top Shops survey opens on February 1st. I just want to reemphasize that it's free, it's confidential. I mean, it's free in the sense that there's no monetary cost involved. It does take some time to fill out, but you do receive a free benchmarking report that gives you visual breakdowns of all the topics that we've discussed, plus many, many, many more. It's customized to your shop. And again, the 2026 survey opens February 1st. You can just go to Modern Machine Shop's website, which is mmsonline.com, and it will be front and center there. One other little thing about this year, the survey window, our group that puts the survey together, Gartner Intelligence, feels like we've been keeping the survey open too long, and they have good reasons for that. Might be a nice topic for another discussion, but the survey window is only 8 weeks this year. So from February 1st through the end of March. So we're really going to promote the heck out of that when it opens.
Okay. We will help you do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely, it's a good call to action. If these 5 questions have made you think about your business a little bit differently and where you might have some weaknesses, this is the call to action to get your stuff ready for February 1st. Can people see the questions in advance so they can start preparing it? Do you have them shared anywhere?
We don't have that shared right now. It's an interesting idea. I could see some value in that, but yeah, as of right now, there's no way to go look through them.
Okay. They're going to be the same as previous?
I think the survey, we made some big changes a couple of years ago and made it much more modular to where you could answer questions that were directly relevant to you and choose to skip sections if they weren't. But I think it's staying the same as last year's survey.
Okay. I know you'll be doing it, Mike.
I will be doing it. It is, I mean, it's honestly, and I've said it before, but it's an important part of our entire kind of annual strategic planning even. We look at where we are against. There's a good couple handfuls of those KPIs that we track ourselves against very closely, and if we're lacking or see opportunities for improvement, they're a big part of our strategic plan every year.
Very good.
Good deal.
Well, we hope that this collaboration with us will spur more participation, because we know how important it is to benchmark, and it really can help drive a positive trend within a business that may not have enough insights as to where they stand across the industry. So appreciate you guys putting it on, for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate the collaboration. You guys are doing amazing work. This is great, and I feel like this is just getting started. So I'm excited to see what we do in 26.
Indeed, I can already feel the excitement of the actual conference itself. It's not going to be in North Carolina again. Is it Cincinnati? I can't remember where they said, but
I don't think we're quite ready to
Okay.
Feel that yet? But yeah, no, it's not in Charlotte. Actually, I thought Charlotte was a great venue. One reason why it's not happening there is because they are apparently doing a full renovation of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and they're not sure when that's going to be finished. So not in 26.
Don't want to risk having an incomplete facility for your big event.
Yeah, that'd be a problem.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA, and we got to tour SMW Autoblok. 2 different facilities, absolutely blew me away. World-class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many workholding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Well, Brent, again, thank you for being on this episode. Thanks for kicking it off with us earlier in the spring. I think hopefully this has been very valuable to the audience. And we, again, just believe strongly in what you guys are doing here and want to support it. So yeah, for all those listening, put February 1st on your calendar and definitely put in the effort to, submit yourself to the survey. We'd love to see, a lot more participation than last year. And just, it'll benefit you and the whole industry to have a broader cross-section of participants. So yeah. And thank you to CLA, the other sponsor for this series. It's been, having their insights into all the financial side of things has been super valuable. And we're going to wrap up this series. So yeah, for all of us here at Making Chips and to you, Brent, as well, thanks for listening in. As this might even be the last episode of 2025. So if it is, happy holidays and happy New Year's to everyone else out there. And I know Mike has had some technical difficulties with his internet going in and out. So Brent, you and I are going to do this one together. So if you don't benchmark and you don't understand where you need to improve your business, you're not going to be making chips. And if you're not making chips,
you're not making money.
Bam.